All right, let's dive into what's basically an economic detective story. There's a huge puzzle facing the U.S. Federal Reserve right now, and we're going to piece together the clues to figure out why they're about to make a move that, on the surface, makes almost no sense. Okay, so here's the big mystery. The market is absolutely certain the Fed is going to cut interest rates. But at the same time, all the official forecasts are pointing to solid economic growth. So what gives? That contradiction is exactly what we're digging into. And look, when I say the market's convinced, I'm not kidding. It's pretty much a done deal. We're talking an over 80% probability of a rate cut priced in for December. The market isn't asking if it's going to happen. They're just waiting for the official word. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? You've got this huge conflict. The market is shouting that a rate cut is just around the corner, but the economic data says everything's chugging along just fine. It really makes you wonder, what is the Fed seeing that maybe the rest of us are missing? So where do we start looking for clues? The job market. Because the really important stuff, the things the Fed is worried about, aren't showing up in the headlines. You gotta look deeper. You know, if you just glance at the numbers everyone talks about on the news, things like initial jobless claims, you wouldn't really see anything to worry about. On the surface, things look pretty stable. But the Fed, they're not just looking at the speedometer. They pop the hood and look at the engine. They're focused on what we call leading indicators. And believe me, those are telling a completely different story. And it's a lot more concerning. Okay, so what are they seeing under the hood? Well, a few things are flashing red. Warn notices, these are the legally required advance warnings for mass layoffs, they're going up. Big layoff announcements from major companies are also on the rise. But here's the kicker. Repeat jobless claims are growing. That means it's getting harder for people who lose their jobs to find a new one. That's a huge warning sign. You know that saying, the canary in the coal mine? That one early signal that warns you something bad is coming? Well, the U.S. economy has one, and right now all eyes are on this very specific group of people. Yup, we're talking about recent college graduates. Think about it. This is the highly educated, bright-eyed group that's supposed to be fueling the future of the workforce. Their economic health is a fantastic barometer for the health of the whole system. And wow. Right now, that barometer is not just flashing red, it is screaming. The unemployment rate for graduates between 20 and 24 years old has rocketed up to 8.5%. We're not talking a slow creep here. This is a straight vertical line. Now, to give you some perspective on just how serious that is, if the unemployment rate for the entire country hit 8.5%, we'd be talking about a major economic crisis. But we're seeing it in what should be the most promising, most employable segment of our entire workforce. That is a massive red flag for the Fed. So why does this one group matter so much? It all comes down to this absolutely staggering number. Recent college graduates account for 55 to 60% of all labor income in the United States. Just let that sink in for a second. So you see, this isn't just a tough break for some recent grads trying to find their first job. No, this is a direct threat to the whole economy. If the group that's responsible for more than half of the nation's spending power can't get a job, they can't spend. And when they stop spending, the whole system starts to slow down. Okay, so we've established this deep, hidden weakness in the job market, right? So let's circle back to that big puzzle we started with. This is the real head-scratcher. It's what makes the Fed's job so incredibly hard right now. The data from the most important group of consumers is flashing danger. So why in the world do the forecasts for future growth still look so darn good? It feels like a total contradiction. I mean, look at this. You've got the Bloomberg consensus, Goldman Sachs, all the big names are still calling for respectable, solid growth, right around 2%. It just doesn't add up with what we're seeing in the labor market. Well, the answer to the riddle, it turns out, isn't about interest rates or what the Fed is doing. It's about what the government is about to do. There's a huge fiscal stimulus package coming down the pipeline, and it's set to pump a ton of what's called high-velocity money right into the economy, basically money that gets spent fast. And all of this puts the Fed in an incredibly tricky spot. They're being forced to make a very risky bet, and they have to choose between two outcomes that could both go wrong. Okay, so here's their dilemma. They can act now, cut rates to try and help that weakening job market. The risk? When that government stimulus money hits, you could get a nasty spike in inflation. Or they can wait, do nothing, and risk the weak job market pulling the whole economy into a recession before that help can even arrive.
So when you see this rate cut in December, don't think of it as the Fed hitting the panic button. It's a calculated, strategic move. They're trying to build a monetary bridge to get the economy safely over this dangerous gap, from the weakness we have today to the stimulus-fueled strength they hope is coming tomorrow. Now, here's a fascinating little clue from a totally different world: crypto. It can be a great way to see what the smart money is thinking. And right now, you have small retail investors who are buying like crazy. But the whales, the really big, informed players, they're selling. They're reducing their risk. It's a sign that the people with the most at stake are getting nervous. But just when you think this puzzle is complicated enough, there's a new, massive piece about to be thrown onto the board, and it changes everything. We're talking about artificial intelligence. And here's why AI is such a unique headache for economists. It does two things at once that are supposed to be opposites. By making everything more efficient, it pushes down inflation. But by replacing workers, it also pushes down employment. It's hitting both of the Fed's main targets, inflation and jobs, at the exact same time. Which leaves us with this huge, kind of scary question. For decades, central bankers have relied on this core idea that inflation and unemployment move in opposite directions. AI could completely break that model. So the real question for the future is, how do you steer the ship when your map is suddenly completely out of date? If you found this video helpful, be sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss your next daily edge. More news in our Telegram channel and the first comment below. See you next time.